Well, good afternoon, Rolling Hills Baptist Church, and whoever else may be joined in with us today. We're glad you're here. This is another Encouragement Thursday. We just want to share a word of encouragement with you. Andrew and I are out here in front of the Bouncy House trailer. We are excited about that opportunity of a lifetime that we have tonight at Northwest High School. Dan and Rebecca Whirling are there waiting, and I'm heading back to try to share the love of Christ and with the kids and the folks in the community. And we're so excited that God opens this door for us. But in that light, I was thinking about a passage actually that Andrew, as he filled in for me last night, covered in the Wednesday night class. And in this passage, we find Paul and Silas in a bit of a predicament. And that predicament is they have been beaten and thrown into prison. And one of the things I admire so much about Paul and about Silas and about so many in the scriptures, they were all about the gospel. And so even in the moments that looked really rough and bleak and grim and like they would be woe is me, I just find this passion and this fire that says we still have a mission, and that mission is for the gospel even in the midst of our suffering. And it's very encouraging to me, because I know sometimes we go through moments in life or seasons in life where we just feel like that we would rather be doing other things than sharing the gospel. We feel like we would just rather run away and hide. But the reality is that Jesus is risen every day, and that we are able to walk with him and minister with him and serve him every day. And what a privilege that is. But after they're beaten, Paul and Silas find themselves in prison. And in verse number 25 of Acts 16, it says this: "And at midnight, Paul and Silas prayed and sang praises unto God, and the prisoners heard them. And suddenly there was a great earthquake, so that the foundations of the prison were shaken, and immediately all the doors were open, and everyone's bands were loosed. And the keeper of the prison, awakened out of his sleep, seeing the prison doors open, he drew out his sword and would have killed himself, supposing that the prisoners had been fled. But Paul cried with a loud voice, saying, Do thyself no harm, for we all are here. We are all here. Then he called for a light and sprang in and came trembling and fell down before Paul and Silas." And then it says in verse 30 this: "And brought them out and said, Sirs, what must I do to be saved?" Paul and Silas didn't take off running just because the doors were open and they were beaten and they were struggling, but their mission was still in the gospel. We go and we set up bouncy houses because we want to share the love of Christ with the community and with the schools and with all that God gives us that opportunity. And sometimes we find ourselves in those places, and I'm sure you've been there, I've been there, where we're just wore down and we're wore out, or we're discouraged, or people have mistreated us, because that will happen. And sometimes we get that feeling like we'd just sit this one out, or we'd rather just wait this one out, or we'd rather just hide. But I just want to encourage you with this: like, our Savior lives, and we've talked about that and we've talked about that, but let's live in that truth. Let's live in that reality that Jesus is with us every single day, and we are privileged to represent him, and the gospel is what will change the world. The Savior and the gospel message is what will change the world. So what a privilege that God gives us to take Jesus with us everywhere we go. And so I don't know where this message finds you today, but maybe it's at a place where it's a struggle, or where sickness has been there, or where loss has been there. But just know this, that the Savior lives and he walks beside you. The Savior doesn't leave you. He doesn't forsake you, even though they had been beaten and thrown into prison. Who shows up? The Lord shows up and opens the prison doors and has a great plan in place to save not only the jailer, but those in his household as well. And so God has a great plan and purpose for you. Keep your eyes on Jesus. Find confidence and hope in him. He's the Prince of Peace, and he will never leave you. Instead, he's allowed you to serve alongside of him and see him do what only he could do. Let's be a voice for Jesus, a voice for the gospel, and just prayerfully watch what God do what only he can do, or God do what only he could do. I hope you have a great rest of the evening. Thanks for joining in today. Hopefully I'm not squinting too bad from the brightness of the sun. We're very grateful for the sun. But I hope you have a great evening. We look forward to being with you again on Sunday. Have a great rest of your week.